Welcome to part 3 on running a Drow campaign from, of course, your own works and the Menzo Baronzon box set. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll up characters as we did in the first video, and then the second video should be where these characters are placed in the family. And hopefully you have at least a couple players that are high on the table, or I should say the family tree, and then a bunch of characters that are in the middle, and maybe even a few which rolled poorly and are practically a slave or maybe a captive or some sort of humanoid who is recognized as being powerful but really has no chance of going up the family tree as far as power and prestige goes. So once you're going to do that, let's see if I can, there we go. As a dungeon master, here is the whole family tree. The first house in Menzo Baronzon, the Tuantarl family. So you're going to make a family tree. And place the characters as such. You're going to have to make some non-playing characters, some opponents / brothers and sisters that they're going to fight with from time to time. Maybe not to kill at first, but maybe to get along with, form alliances, that sort of thing. And I recommend doing something like this. So right here, we got the matron mother, who should not be a player character at the start of this campaign. It was pretty soft, Tuantarl. And then you had maybe her sisters that went elsewhere to other cities that developed their family name there. Then what you're going to do is by female priestesses, you're going to have to rank down the line where they belong. And you'll note here that Zafana was an NPC, but the other ones are all players. I can remember Phil being excited because he was the first daughter, and he was going to have to, at some point or another, backstab the matron mother to get her position. But it never quite happened because as she graduated from the priestess school, and finally they have this huge party / something else, she ended up getting impregnated by a demon, which is normal for that kind of party, shall we say. And unfortunately, her character got killed early on in the campaign, probably at only second or third level, taking an arrow or two and dying. But she would have been the mother of a half demon, or it would have been a demon because of Loth is a chaotic evil priestess, therefore a demon. But anyway, I digress. These other characters are funny. My friend Justin played Malice, and Andy Olson, which I didn't even remember was part of this campaign. I remember he had a girlfriend at the time named Liana, and he chose to use her name again here. Just kind of odd, some of the things coming back to me. Let's see, what else? So for eldest boy, we had Dupree, and then we had Gelroos, Neslo, and I just want to say Dupree was an NPC, so he's on the chopping block right away. And then you had Vuslin. All these guys or characters were being played by Again, players around the table, and then we've got to go on to the others. So you have the weapon master and father. Basically, he was just considered a throwaway, as men are in that society. But he was the father of most, if not all, of these children that were from Pretty Soft, who was the matron mother of the house. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going through this here. Also, Jegrid was used, I think, in some of the novels So the Samael was the house wizard. Zilvra was an enforcer, just a real badass, heavily muscled female fighter. So you've got the weapon master's bastard kin. Nobody chose that. Possible kin from one of the daughters, and one of those was Risen, a male. Essentially, when that happens, you get to play any type of character, so it's fun actually to play a male because because the whole situation of trying to fight your way off, especially when you're offspring from a daughter who has got no power or very little. The pressure is off. You can do essentially whatever you want, as long as you don't dishonor the family. And then of course somebody rolled a 0-3 and had to play a slave or monster, and Zagreb was a slave taken from another noble house, a drow, I believe, but not someone that was given the freedoms that some of the other drow were. In other words, they were worried about him escaping and trying to get back to his people, and they weren't going to allow that. So you've got that family tree thing there. Whoops, I put it back completely backwards. All right. So after that, what I did was I set up a bunch of challenges for the children. I'm sure I'll find it at some point. Whoops. But there's a bunch of yes and no's on this, and there's challenges like to trigger their dancing lights. They were given maybe an ability check or whatever. If you were a cleric and a female, you'd be chastised, but eventually you'd be forgiven as long as you could accomplish it. So you were given a number of tries, and those that did it right off the bat were considered excellent, as opposed to men or young boys, which would be chastised and probably taken out and whipped by some matron mothers that were in need of training to basically they brainwashed their daughters just to become cruel on demand and just be, as terrible as they can to men and slaves and everything. So then you've got Fairy Fire. Obviously this person here, they failed all 3 times. They were definitely punished. And again, look at this, Darkness. They tried doing that as a child and they failed as well. So that's not good at all. You can start to lose your standing and all that after a while. It's like maybe you're not in Loth's favor as you thought you were, that sort of thing. And so, we went character by character doing some of this. This is before they went off to school. And if matron mother thought you weren't up to snuff, she'd just take you out and have you murdered. So, I'm telling you, it's that type of campaign. It's not for the weak. It's not for the faint of heart. You could roll up a character and before you know it, after a few nights, that sort of thing could happen. You can lose your character. So there was something here as far as some sort of a chanting ritual on something that all the priestesses did together. I'd love to read you guys some of the flavor text and everything that went to this, but I have not found it yet. So anyway, and then there was something called the House Search. That was another one. You're given points and some other things based on if it succeeded, if the family succeeded, if it failed, if you got hurt, if you came out healthy. Basically, Loth was watching, and she would see if you were brave or if you were hiding and cowardly, if you were clever. There was probably a few puzzles to be solved to succeed, that sort of thing. So anyway, we're going to back up here. So anyway, I've got a thing for every character, and that was, it's just the beginning introduction to this campaign. The players weren't really told what was going to happen. And let's see here. This is about rolling up characters. And I got, from that table where the characters were placed, as far as, slave all the way up to somebody born from a noble, from matron mother herself. It tells me here what they might get. Obviously, if you're a slave, they might get only a couple of things that they managed to hide during all the years that they were, in chains and shackles and able to sneak on themselves back to their room or whatever. And then on this one here, you've got minor drow. There's a small chance for them to have a few things. And then it gets better and better, as you might suspect. Like the best characters would get after 82, the player will get the following items: Drow boots, 95% chance; Drow chainmail, and then there's a table of what plus it would be. We went kind of full out. We knew that this wasn't really going to be the type of campaign where you were going to be getting lots and lots of magic items and treasure, because you kind of got that at start. It was mostly going to be, you have to prove yourself, and then you have to prove that you can outsmart matron mother and somehow take over your own house. So some of the players were good. They formed alliances, and some of the characters not so much. And I got here that thing again, rolling up a Drow character, all the penalties of light and everything. I came up with a couple new classes. One of them is the Underdark Scout or Underdark Ranger. And then I go into Magic Drow equipment. There's a spell created just for this game because magic items were actually created or improved by the radiation in certain areas of the Underdark. They were given this spell. It's you can't identify magic items as such for some of the Drow equipment. You had to identify the power of the radiation in the item. And of course, you're supposed to, not go along with actual true radiation. This stuff wasn't really hurtful to the Drow. Let's see. What is this? Drow versus other surprise tables. I made a thing for that. What is this? Conditions when worn. Chance to remain hidden. So, there was a chance, doing certain things would stop the characters from being invisible. While wearing that cloak, the Drow really had it great when sneaking up on other Drow and all that. Let's see. Okay. These are the point systems I use for the favor of Loth. And they would all start out with minimal scores. Maybe the clerics would have a little bit more than the men at start. And then you'd start building your points up. And let's see. You would think Loth would be happy a drow had made it this far, but she is a fickle mistress. Suspicious and cruel, Loth would say, I see a pattern here. She still grants her priestess here the respect and spells they deserve, but watches for too much supremacy. At 93 plus, one good/bad encounter happens to the individual. If it dips below 93, then again rises above the roll of 50% chance for either again. All right, whatever. But yeah, there's all sorts of plus and minuses, succeeding in a mission, failing, all that, asking for healing, showing weakness, stuff like that. There is a certain chess game in some of the novels written, and I did this little thing here on Sava, which was their kind of chess game. Basically, it was a bunch of rolls, and if you rolled a bunch of times, you would succeed or whatever, beating other players. Other players had modifiers, whether they were plus or minus, good, bad at the game. There was a lot to it. Here's that fortress thing again. We saw that in the first one. Here's actually a different one you may have not seen. Let's see here. Let's see. This is a stalagmite, and this is a layout of all the rooms. Just in one of them. And I got like an explanation sheet here of what might actually be in these rooms. Some of the characters' rooms, basically, they were probably stationed in this one. The middle thing going up is a levitation tube, which Drow use instead of stairs. So they would build this long tube, and then they would start carving into the naked rock itself, building rooms. And because the drow could levitate most of the time, or had equipment that would let them levitate, it was good for them. It was good protection for them to get away from enemies. I'm not really going over here's a drow character sheet. You're not going to see the whole thing here. The original, I forget where I got it from, but I had to change this. So magic resistance is right there. That's something that the drow needed. And let's see, do strength and charisma modifiers from the second edition handbook. Let's see, 18-19 dex is +3 bow throw. And I don't know, it's pretty good. Still looks good today, and even though this is close to 20 years later. And even on the second page, it's got their proficiencies, the abilities, and then right here I've got their, I forget what they're called, but they each get some magic ability, and you just fill in the bubble or place something over it to show that you've used it for the day or the encounter. Because oftentimes you could rest and get them back. And then let's see, I got some Underdark items, non-magical things, but things that are necessary to survive in the Underdark. Let's see, there's a bunch of stuff here. Yeah. Some of these are magic items. Yeah, here we go. I made some figurines of wondrous power. Gauntlet of disintegration. Yeah, that's great. Let's see. I did a lot on this, that's for sure. There's a whole thing here on different poisons, poison formulas and costs. Kind of important. Okay, I've gotten to the part now where there's some NPCs here. these would either be, sorry about that. These would either be, what level are they, first of all? They've got low hit points, so I'm guessing they're just like level 3. Maybe these were students that they had to go up against when they were in school. And then there's the bigger ones are going to be actual family members. Bizarro, Tuntaro, Volcana, Jagrid. Yeah. These are the brothers and sisters and other household members. And if they ever thought of taking them on, they had to. Crown of Evil. What the heck? Level 3 and beyond. Well, maybe here we go. Oh, there's a lot here. This must have been like a giant dungeon or something. But yeah, there's a lot. Let's see here. And this is just part of it. I've got notebooks really that have the main I'm looking for anything that's really useful, but I'm not really finding anything. Anyway, sorry if you think I wasted your time. There's some NPCs here. There's some demons and some things, other creatures that the players had to deal with. Let's see. This was a magic item that was incredibly powerful. Flashing strike. Yeah. And then again, here's the family tree. They were not the first house of Tuatharel. I mean, of Menzoberranzan. But, here's a dungeon. I think I used a bunch of different things and then super glued it or whatever onto here. Just a basic thing. And then this is part of the compound for their family, I do believe. And some of the areas had vaults. You're not stealing from your own family, but some of the treasure they were allowed to use. As long as it was in the good for the family, you could just ask matron mother for some wealth, and if she thought that you were going to use it wisely, then of course she would issue it. And of course, elves live thousands of years, so you can imagine the wealth that was amassed in some of these vaults. And these are large rooms. That's all for tonight. Thank you for enjoying the video if you made it this far. I know I'm a little boring to listen to. Good night.